You've worked hard for every single one of your nearly 3,000 subscribers, but whenever you post a new video, it feels like they've vanished. It's not that they've abandoned you, but rather you've trained them to ignore your content. And in this audit, I will explain how that happened and how you can fix it. I'm Colin. I'm a full-time content creator. I've gotten millions of views on YouTube, made tens of thousands of dollars from YouTube alone. And in this audit, I'm going to go through the complete channel from niche and branding to more. No BS, no fluff. Let's get right into it. So today we are looking at Regular Joe, and we're going to start with a niche. So whenever we look at this channel to figure out its niche, we can see that we have a bunch of Brazilian flags. It's very clear we're dealing with Brazilian vlogs. So somebody who lives in Brazil, it seems like this person has moved to Brazil and even the slums of Brazil, I think, from looking at this. So that's an interesting life, okay? You have a more interesting life than a lot of people who are trying these vlogs. So that's already a leg up. So I think you have a really cool niche, but let's talk about your target audience next. So who is likely to watch these videos? I think you need to be a little bit familiar with Brazil when you're talking about a favela, which I'm pretty sure, we'll double check right now. I'm pretty sure is a slum, right? Of Brazil. Yeah, okay. So it's just a Brazilian slum. That is not something everyone's going to know right off the bat unless you're a little bit familiar with Brazil. So I think you're sort of narrowing it down to people who are a little bit familiar with Brazil. I think that could be a mistake, but we'll talk about that later. I think the content here, like the concepts for these videos are pretty accessible in most of them. So like this one, moving into a slum in Brazil, Regular Joe gets a haircut in a favela, the French fry king of Rio de Janeiro. Like those are all concepts that somebody who is somewhat interested in Brazil could latch onto. Visiting a house in Rosina, I hope I said that right. This is the largest favela in the world. Like this is harder to broach for someone unfamiliar, but we're gonna find that later. Unique value proposition. I actually think this channel has a more unique value proposition than a lot of the stuff I look at. So this is the number one problem I have seen with new channels. I even made a whole document that you can get in the description if you want to fix this, but most channels just don't have a unique value proposition. There is no reason I should watch you over anyone else on the platform, especially whenever we compare your stuff to like Mr. Beast, who's making movie production level quality content, and you're making like Let's Plays, for example. But you have something a little more unique here, and I think it's definitely gonna help you a lot as we go through the rest of this audit. Let's talk about branding, channel name, logo, all that stuff. Okay, so we'll start with your about section because it's going to be really easy. You don't have one. I would highly suggest you fill this out. People, believe it or not, do go to your channel and check out the about section and stuff before they decide to subscribe or engage with you further. It is important. It's not meaningless. You should care about it. And it's one of those things where you put like an hour into it once, you never have to deal with it again. So huge return on investment. As for your name here, I don't know if your name is actually Joe. Maybe it is. I'm not a fan of Regular Joe as a name, really, because I don't feel like that fits with your channel. You're not selling me like I'm a Regular Joe guy, really, especially whenever we're talking about like an American audience. You don't have like a Regular Joe life. You willingly moved to the slums of Brazil to show me that world. I think just having your whole name here might be better. Sell it as a personal brand. I mean, we're vlogging anyway. I think that just makes more sense. Not a huge criticism, like if you really are sold on the Regular Joe idea, you can go with it. It's not going to stop you from succeeding or anything. We're just talking about ways that things could be stronger. Picture you for your profile. Fine. Makes sense here. Your banner, I'm not a fan of because one, the colors don't match with anything else on your channel. I mean, you have some really strong like yellows and the Brazilian green, like the flag and everything, you're using that constantly. And then I look at your banner and it's just like some colors that don't match with the rest of your stuff. So I'd love to see you change that and instead have like the Brazilian flag or like life from the slums of Brazil, like something like that tells me, very clearly what I can get from this channel and incorporates the colors you're already using. I think that would be smart and really help tie your channel together. Because if we look at like this channel here, without the banner, very cohesive, right? And then we pull the banner in and it's like, what is this up here for? Why is this here? Makes no sense. So I would highly suggest you fix that. So look at your homepage. How is it laid out? Videos, for you, shorts. Looks good. Fine. All right. Now let's talk about your content pillars. Do we have any? Do you have things clearly set up? Are you thinking of things like that? and your upload consistency, your schedule, all that jazz. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have a ton of content here, 5 months, and most of the content has been put out in a single month, which is cool. You're pumping the content out. It's great to see. I can tell you're starting to take things seriously, which I do appreciate. I approach these audits very seriously and try to give you real feedback so you can start winning and actually take YouTube to a full-time career. So whenever I see that kind of dedication from someone, I always appreciate it. With that said, you don't have content buckets at all. Basically, all of these are going to be the same, just I'm doing a thing in Brazil, watch me do a thing. Here's like a day of me doing a thing. Yeah, which is, we're a vlog channel, so it makes sense, but we need to come up with some content buckets that we could actually put things into. So I'm sure you have plenty of examples of other vlog channels that you could look to where they're doing things like one day we're doing a challenge, we're doing a day in the life of, another day we're doing, I don't know, a commentary about living or like a guide on how to live in this area. Or, there's a lot of different types of content you could do here, but I think you need to sit down and think about what are categories of content I could make. So if we're thinking about, what content pillars you could do here, I'm really thinking about, maybe doing challenges in the city you live in. Like, can I visit this many places in this amount of time? Or, just ways to sort of amp the concept up of you doing your normal stuff, maybe a day in the life. And then maybe we have another one where you just talk about your lived experience of living in this place and doing the things that you do. Stuff like that. I'm sure you can look at other channels who vlog and come up with a whole host of different types of content you could be making. But now that we've sort of got the general bit about the channel gone over, we're going to move on to the actual video content itself. But real quick, before we do that, I do want to say, if you got value from this review so far and you want there to be a chance for me to look at your channel, go ahead and comment orange in the description or in the comments below, and I will pick one of those channels for a future review. And look, the single biggest problem I see new creators make is that they don't know what makes them unique. And before you do anything else on the platform, you really have to know what that is. So I created a free worksheet. It's completely free. It's called the Why Watch Me worksheet to help you do that in like 15 minutes. The link to download it is free. It's in the description at the very top. It's the perfect step before you consider things like my full audit toolkit or a one-on-one session. Okay, let's get back to the review and actually look at some of Regular Joe's content here. So we're just going to pick on the first video. It's one of the most viewed, and hopefully it gives us a really clear picture into, what your content's like.
We left a luxurious apartment with wonderful views of Rio de Janeiro last week, so we could experience life as a cria, which is a term for a boy from the favelas. To do that, we rented an apartment in the middle of Rocinha, the largest favela in the world. And once we got the keys, we went to do a little bit of shopping for our new home. But now, it's time for us to actually set up shop in the slums of Brazil.
Okay, so when it comes to this intro here and the video in general, I don't like the constant subtitles. YouTube has a feature here to give you subtitles and to change them. You can add in Spanish subtitles here, and someone who speaks Spanish or Portuguese, I think is you speak in Brazil, instead of these, like why have them on screen for the entire video? They're sort of visual clutter at all times. It's just not necessary. YouTube has a feature for this. Some channels are even getting auto dubbing now. I think most of them have them. I know I have it on at least one channel. So soon you'll be able to auto dub in Portuguese. Or if you're so concerned about someone being able who speaks Portuguese or Spanish to be able to watch your video, just re-record the lines. Put in that extra effort, it'll show. So I'm not a fan of these being here the entire time like this. Let's watch the intro again.
We left a luxurious apartment with wonderful views of Rio de Janeiro last week, so we could experience life as a cria, which is a term for a boy from the favelas. To do that, we rented an apartment in the middle of Rocinha, the largest favela in the world. And once we got
So in general, I actually really like this intro. You tell me the premise of the video. I feel like I have been dropped into your life in a way. I feel sort of caught up. You told me what you did last week and what we're doing today. And
We left
think,
a
if I'm not
luxurious
mistaken,
apartment with wonderful.
yeah, you tell me why you're doing it. This video, unlike so much of the content I watch, has a premise. There is a reason that you created this video. You said, hey, I left my beautiful hotel in this wonderful city to go and try and see what it's like to live as some dude from the slums. Cool idea. You know, what an interesting video. I think your packaging, though, really doesn't sell that. A day in the life in a favela. Like, why is this a day in the life whenever you instead could be like, I moved to try and live in the slums for a week or something like that. It's just off the top of my head. You can obviously refine that more. But I think you can see already how you could have packaged this in a better way, where instead of it, also the thumbnail has changed, it looks like. So instead of it just being like a day in the life, because this is not exactly what it feels like. That's not what you set it up as whenever I clicked on the video. You set it up as, hey, I left my beautiful hotel to go and try and see what it's like to be a guy from the slums, which is a cool, interesting concept. So I think that you really, really need to work on the packaging here. You had a concept. I'm not sure why you didn't translate that into the title and thumbnail. Let's also talk about the thumbnail. It appears to have changed, so I think you're A/B testing probably, which is great. Great tool. You should definitely be using it. This is not super eye-catching. I'm a big fan of thumbnails that are very visually eye-catching and then force you to read the title to really understand what's going on. You can think of it as like a giant stop sign for when people are scrolling on their homepage. This is not going to do that, and it's really simple. Why is your shirt and your backpack and your skin tone and your hair are all sort of shades of gray and brown, and they just blend in with the background. You needed to take this picture or like cut yourself out and put it against something that's brightly colored, or change your shirt color. Like, there's a lot of ways to create contrast here, but there just is no contrast in this thumbnail, really. I mean, if you squint, it all sort of like blends together into one brown, gray blob. So I think you could absolutely fix that. I can't look at it now. Obviously, maybe we'll reload and we'll get to see it. You had text on the other one before. I think you could put some text on this, like inside the slums even would be good on this one if you change the title, obviously. Remember, we're trying to build off that idea and create a full cohesive package that clearly conveys that, hey, this video is about trying to live in the slums for a week or whatever it is, you know? Yeah, I think that would help a lot. And then you would want to use the same colors here that you've been building, the Brazil colors, and it would help, you know, create more of a brand. And we'll cover the title one last time. The city name, I don't think you need the city name in there at all. Like, you just putting in Brazil would be a lot better. It gives you a lot broader appeal. If I don't know what this is, or, you know, if I've never heard of this place, I can still, oh, this guy's going into the slums for a week of Brazil. That's a very clear, like, mental trigger for most people, whereas this is a lot more specific. So I'm not a fan. It's also a little long because you've tacked this on at the end, and it's just not needed. This is a much stronger title. I would stop using favela in general. A U.S. audience is not going to know what a favela is, probably. You probably just want to use slums instead. I think that'll give you a lot broader reach into the average American. And I think you are sort of targeting Americans with this, because people who live in Brazil don't need you to tell them what it's like to live in the slums, probably. They probably have a pretty decent idea of what it's like to live in the slums. Like, I live in the U.S. If you told me what it's like to live in some trailer park in Texas, where I'm from, I would know roughly what that's like. I don't need you to tell me about that. But that might be interesting for me to tell you about, because our cultures are different. So keep that in mind, that you're communicating with people who are in a very different culture than you in this case, and they're not going to know what that word means. Okay, so the hook is actually really strong here. I like the setup. I like all the editing on it, except for the subtitles, which we've talked about. We'll watch it again, though.
We left a luxurious apartment with wonderful views of Rio de Janeiro last week, so we could experience life as a cria, which is a term for a boy from the favelas. To do that, we rented an apartment in the middle of Rocinha, the largest
I would also just, if you're going to use favela all the time in your videos, maybe clarify that at the beginning. I don't think you do. See, like, from a favela, and then in just parentheses, just put slum, so that it's clarified for a U.S. audience.
To do that, we rented an apartment in the middle of Rocinha, the largest favela in the world. And once we got the keys, we went to do a little bit of shopping for our new home. But now, it's time for us to actually set up shop in the slums of Brazil. This is gonna be long.
Okay, and I can tell you right now that the retention graph on this video looks like this in your intro, and then plummets off a cliff whenever we get to this, because you built up all this momentum. Like, you can just feel the energy and the vibe in the beginning of this, and then you kill all of it immediately, and you're like, okay.
This is what we call physics.
Watch me blow up an air mattress for, how long does this take? How long are you blowing up an air mattress for? For a minute and a half, dude? Why? Why did you killed all momentum in this video. We had a cool kick-ass intro. I was so hyped. I was so ready to see what this was like. And then you put the most boring, mundane shit imaginable in my face for a minute and a half. Why? I don't care. I can go blow up an air mattress right now myself. I've seen people do this. I've done this. Who cares about you blowing up an air mattress? This could have been 5 seconds at most. You could have said, all right, we were getting set up to live, here, grabbed an air mattress and blew it up. Boom. This is what I'm going to be sleeping on for a week. I just cut out the last minute and a half of your video in 10 seconds and got all the same information that I guarantee you this is going to convey to me. We'll watch a little farther though.
When I'm pushing air towards the hole, it's creating a hole of space. It's sucking in more air. So even though I'm only blowing, let's say, 1 liter of air, for example, it's taking out.
C'est onla.
Olha.
Uau.
Dormiu.
Não, vai dormir agora aqui.
You know those nights when
It's just not interesting at all. Not at all. I think you really have to think about that whenever you're making these videos, is what's actually going to be interesting to the people watching these, because I'm watching this to get an insight into what it's like to live in the slums of Brazil. And you won't have much of a future with your channel if the most interesting thing about living in the slums of Brazil is that you have to blow up air mattresses, right? I think that's pretty clear. Okay, we'll keep watching a little bit though.
when you wake up, I don't know, 3-4 times throughout the night, get up, go back to sleep, get up, go back to sleep, get up, go back to sleep. Well, that's the story of my life. But today, he took part of it. We were supposed to be going to body tick at 5 in the morning, but it's 10:17, and I'm not even triggered.
So this walking and talking, I actually it's much more enjoyable. And it's like you're telling me about what's going on and what you're doing. What we're really missing here is any kind of structure presented in the beginning. I don't know. You told me that you moved here to experience life as someone from the slums, as a dude from the slums. What next? You have not built a story here. You need to present something in the beginning. After the intro, you kind of need to set up what we're going to be doing. So it's like, hey, we just got here. It's 2 a.m. I blew up this air mattress. This is what I'm going to be sleeping on for a week, and I'll catch you in the morning. Boom, fall asleep, wake up. Now you're walking out of the house, and it's like, okay, I got ready. We're outside now. Here's what we're doing today, and here's why we're doing it. I don't know any of that right now. I'm lost. You had me so hooked in the beginning, and then you fumbled it by not keeping me engaged and telling me what I'm doing. I have no idea who you are, what we're doing, why we're doing it, other than this context you gave me in the beginning. And now I know you sleep on an air mattress and you're going to be on it for a while. Think about how little information you've packed in the beginning of this video. And I have no idea who you are. I need so much more context to understand and to be able to follow along with what's going on.
Usually that type of shit annoys me, but I just knew it was gonna happen, so I accepted it. Sleep is important. The older I get, the more I realize it. But for now, let's just go to the gym and put some work in. Você sabe,
So now, a minute and a half in, 2 minutes into this video, I have a very clear idea that, okay, we're going to the gym. Why? Why are we going to the gym? What is that? You told me you moved to this place to experience what it's like to live as one of these people, a guy from this area who grew up here. Are they all going to the gym? Why are they all going to the gym? I mean, I feel like the intro is now completely disconnected from the rest of the video, and it feels like just you going through a day in the life of your normal life of having moved here. And that's way less interesting. I don't know you. I don't care about who you are. Why do I care that you're waking up and going to the gym and renting a motorcycle to go there or whatever, Like, it just stopped being interesting. Because you devolved into essentially what seems like just, this is how I live, which, to be fair, is what you promised here. But whenever I clicked on the video, I got you gave me a lot higher aspirations for the content. I thought you really had something here where you were going to tell me a compelling story about the life that you live, and this sort of you almost presented it like a challenge, which is just inherently interesting. And then you just deliver like what is the equivalent of like a low effort let's play of, hey, this is what I did today. I don't care about what you did today. I don't know who you are. No one else is going to care either. The actual editing and stuff is good. I think your on-camera presence is fine. All of that is like decent, but really what it's going to come down to is having a clear idea here and then executing that idea and building a story in the video. I feel like that's probably the biggest thing that you're missing. So props, first of all, because you're way ahead of a lot of other creators I see, and the fact that you have an actual a unique value proposition. There's a reason to watch this content. You're giving me a window into a life that I otherwise would not see, right? But you're not telling me a cohesive story. The actual ideas for your content are not good enough. I need you to come up with a story that you're going to tell me, and then I need you to execute on that story from start to finish. It needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You had a great concept for this video, and maybe you just didn't realize you had it, right? Maybe you wrote that intro afterwards and you're like, oh, this is a great intro. But you should do that first. Come up with the idea, make the title and thumbnail, then create the intro, and then build the video from there. Build a video that will meet the expectations of that title and thumbnail and that intro. So you told me, I'm going to go try and live like this to see what it's like. Carry that through the entire rest of the thing, the rest of the video. When you wake up, it should be like, okay, so a normal guy like this would do these things. So I'm going to go do that. First on our list, we have to go do this. The guys who live out here, they got this type of haircut. So I'm going to go get that haircut. They dress like this. So I got to go get some new clothes to see what that's like. They all got to be jacked, because you never know. You might get robbed out on these streets. The guy on the bike told me, here's that clip. And, tell me, you see how I'm building a story of like, here's the stuff we're going to do. It's very clear. There's a structure. All of that is there. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself now. Hopefully that's clear. You get the point. That's the next thing that you really need to do to up your game, is come up with a concept for a video and execute that concept with a clear story. All right. This was a very thorough look at Regular Joe's channel here. Hopefully you find this helpful. You have a very clear path to move forward. If you want the same level of clarity for your channel, I have 3 ways to help you depending on where you're at. So first, if you need to figure out what makes your channel special, go ahead and grab my free Why Watch Me worksheet. It's completely free. Check it out through the link in the description. Then there is the complete audit toolkit. So if you feel like you know why your channel is special, you can go through the complete audit toolkit. It's very similar to what I did today, but it goes in way more depth. It's 42 pages long and will cover literally every aspect of your channel. And third, if you want me personally to look at your channel, we can book a one-on-one audit session. So yeah, those are the 3 options. They're in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful.